Hey everybody, I have a bit of a sore throat, so I'm out today, but I did want to demo for you how to do the 3D photography edit one more time. If you didn't remember from last week, it's a pretty simple process, but there's an art to it, and I wanted to go over it once more. I think a lot of you guys were distracted by the appearance of my young son Ben, and I can't blame you. But we do need to make sure that you guys are able to get work done when I'm out. So I have this practice, photograph here that I thought would be fun because it has a bunch of different colors, and it might make for, a good way to show off how to do 3D. So the first thing we need to do is just open up our photograph, and then we're going to go to our Layers tab, and we are going to duplicate our background layer just by right-clicking on it and saying duplicate layer, and it's going to come up with this duplicate layer option where I'm going to rename it from background copy to 3D layer. If you want to call it like 3D layer red or 3D layer blue, that's fine. Whatever you want to do. I'm going to call it 3D layer red and say okay. So now I've got two layers, 3D red and background. What we need to do is ostensibly create a layer where we have turned off the color values except for red. At least that's what I'm going to be doing. So what I'm going to do is make sure I'm selected on the layer, and I'm going to go to my FX button here at the bottom of the Layers panel. Click on it and choose Blending Options, top one. This is going to open up all of our special effects in this menu here. We're going to stay in blending options, though we'll definitely explore some of the other ones later this year. But what I'm focusing on are my advanced blending tools and the color channels. RGB for red, green, and blue. We're going to turn off green and blue, so we're left with just red as the only color value in this photograph. So we'll hit OK, and it won't look like you've done anything. That's because you have two layers of the same thing. So if we turn the background layer off by clicking on the eyeball, you'll see that we have a layer that is all red, and that's what we want. I'm going to turn that background layer back on. Now, with the 3D red layer selected, I'm going to use my arrow keys when I'm on the Move tool, which is right here. I'm going to use my arrow keys to the left, and you'll see that I'm slowly shifting those red values over and creating that red and blue separation that we need in order to pull off the 3D effect. Now, I'll be honest with you, I'm at home. I didn't think I would be getting sick, so I didn't bring my 3D glasses home with me. So I don't know if this is actually working, and I'm going to assume that it's working. So maybe he's popping out. Maybe he's receding backwards. You can always try to each different direction depending on how you're wearing your glasses to either have it pop out or recede backwards into the image. I always tend to go left with my red if I'm wearing the glasses with red on the left. Now, I also discussed how you can change what is popping out and what's not. So, for example, I can go to my 3D red layer, and I can add a layer mask onto that 3D red layer. There it is. And with my pencil tool and the color black selected, I can get rid of the 3D everywhere I don't want that effect happening. And it should remove the 3D effect from my image everywhere that I've not got it selected. Okay, now this is going to take some fine tuning in order to make it happen. Again, I'm not looking at this with 3D glasses, so who knows if this is actually working. It should be. And I can remove 3D where I don't want it so that there's a stronger impact of him popping out or him receding. That's going to be up to you. Make sure you get in the little creases in between his arms, right? We don't want that popping out as well. That's how we can create the illusion of depth. Anyway, so when I'm happy, with my glasses on and it's working, that's pretty cool. The last thing you're going to want to do is crop the image so that you're not getting that area where it overlaps. I'm going to actually go back a few steps here. Okay. And I'm going to move this over more definitively so you can really see what I'm talking about. Maybe I'll move it over this way. This one doesn't really have that effect because the background is so flat. But if you move this over, you should see some lip here where there's some overlap. But also on the edges of your image, if I move this to the left, that red is going to leave a split here. Now, my background doesn't have any red in it. So this is a bit of a weird example, actually, turns out. So what I would normally want to do is use my crop tool to remove the area where there's that weird overlap so that I'm not getting that 3D getting cut off at the edges. Okay, let me show you what that looks like with another photograph. I'm going to use, oh heck, why don't I just use a portrait of my family here. Okay, great. My son wasn't really smiling, but it's okay. So I'm going to do the same thing here where I'm going to duplicate the layer, rename it. I'm not going to do it in this case. I'm going to go to my blending options. I'm going to turn off the color values so I have just red. And I'm going to move it over. And you should be able to see what I'm talking about. Okay, when I do this, move this over. Actually, you might not because this doesn't really have much color value in it either. All right, maybe this is a bad example too. Well, here we go. Now you can really see it. You see over here how we're really seeing the edge of the image? I would want to crop that so that, you know, we're not getting that like kind of edge cropping stuff going on, and it actually will be better. This is an extreme example. But anyway, once you're done, you can just play with it and really refine it. When I return on, I believe, Wednesday or Tuesday, I will go over some of the more fine details of how to do this. But I want you guys to really just experiment with the stuff you brought in as we look to kind of work on these all week. Anyway, I hope that was helpful, and I hope to see you guys soon, all healed up.